Good afternoon. Today we're going to start the chapter 2 of the Fisk University's macroeconomic class, and it's going to be again Econ 24001. Quick review on chapter 1 as we started to build the information or the fundamentals that we're going to use in your toolbox. We talked about utility, we talked about scarce resources, land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. We talked about what a market economy is. We discussed the process of how economics investigate, try to understand individuals' behaviors or theory of the firm, that behavior and how choices are made, especially in a production environment. We talked about the three basic concepts that set economics apart from other social sciences, those being opportunity cost. Consumers or individuals tend to optimize, and they make their choices based at the margin. We also talked about utility, and it's an economics way of, or an economist way of trying to measure satisfaction or benefit from consuming a good or service. And then lastly, yesterday, we spent a few minutes talking about economic modeling, testing hypothesis, the fact that you can never prove a hypothesis true, you can only reject it or fail to reject it. And so with those concepts and those fundamentals tucked away in your toolbox, we're going to jump into chapter 2. In chapter 2, if you read the text or have been reading ahead, it's choices in production. The first thing they talk about at the beginning of chapter 2 is they talk about introducing you to your first use of an economic model. And that model is the production possibilities market. Also, you'll see it throughout the text. They all talk about the production possibilities curve. And basically what it's saying is it is showing the potential production alternatives between two goods or services, and it shows those on the production possibilities curve if and only if all of the resources available to that economy are being fully utilized. Resources, and it not only fully utilized, but the production possibilities curve, or the PPC, assumes that they are both fully utilized and efficiently utilized. And when we talk about the resources, again, we're going back to land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, and how those inputs are combined in a production process to generate goods and services. We'll get a little deeper into the inputs and the scarce resources as we kind of work our way through chapter 2. We'll also get more in depth in the PPC. It also talks about at the beginning of chapter 2, it talks about the rules of how, in an economic system, it's the rules of how resources are owned and decisions made. If you're in a capitalistic market economy, the majority of those decisions are made by owners in a private sector of a good or some type of a resource or inputs of production. And they make those decisions and determine what goods and services they'll produce. But even in a capitalistic market, there's always going to be some determination generated through government intervention, through policies provided by a government or bureaucratic agency. What happens in an economic system, the what, how, for whom, and the provisions for economic growth are determined by either the individual or within the organization, some type of a government agency or bureaucratic agency. Government is usually involved, especially in the planning, production, and the distribution of goods and services. Even if those goods and services, and we'll take healthcare as an example, even though healthcare may be generated by a doctor's office, healthcare goods and services generated in Fisk situation across the street at Meharry. Those services are generated within that system, but while they may be able to determine how the goods and services will be allocated to a commercial population via a health plan or an agreement with a health plan, if they're in the Medicare business or in the Medicaid business or even the indigent population, there's going to be some level of bureaucratic intervention and some government agencies, state, federal, maybe even regional or local, that are going to have some say in how those goods and services are distributed. And then lastly, kind of in this introduction, it talks about the economy as an organization that produces goods and services and allocates them to the consuming public. And it tries to allocate those to the consuming public in such a way that the consumer's utility is fully optimized. And again, utility is just the economist's way of trying to measure satisfaction and benefit of consuming that good or service. Einstein, I think, and I don't remember the exact year, but he's the one that said, you can't make matter out of nothing. And I think that is very true, especially in this world and in this day and age. And that's where we start bringing in the scarce resources, land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. And also within this factors of production and within this economic concept or framework, we're also in the back of our minds always concerned with scarcity, choice, opportunity cost. I think most of us, as you think about production and the production environment, we've seen, at least most of us have seen some changes. Probably not many of us saw changes in the way goods and services were produced and distributed after World War II. But I think the majority of us can attest to changes that occurred after 9/11, especially as most countries started to shift some of their scarce resources away from a production type environment to security, to defense contracting, trying to ensure that terrorist activity were minimized or negated, and that 9/11 did not occur again. And then we also definitely saw a change in the way goods and services are produced, and the way the factors of production may change with the COVID-19 outbreak. So, started in late 2019 and full blown in 2020, started kind of working out of it in 2021. But the way, especially the labor market has been impacted, that has been a definite change with, the result of COVID and, the COVID-19 and the issues and the adverse effect on our production economy that has instigated. As an example, you just look around, and last time I was in Nashville, a lot of your fast food restaurants, they didn't have counter service. The lobbies were not open. It was drive-through only. And even with drive-through only, I'm not sure how many people were working in them, because it took forever to get anything going through the drive-through. Went to one of the restaurants downtown, and the manager came by multiple times, apologizing simply because there wasn't enough wait staff. It was taking forever for somebody to come take your order, and then the meals be delivered, and then trying to get a check and pay and get out of there. It took forever. So just the way, and the hospitality industry, the way things have changed with COVID, it's really significantly impacting their production, their PPC, and it's going to change even more going forward. Yesterday, stopped in at McDonald's, and the individual taking my order couldn't speak English, and I don't speak, I can't speak Spanish. I don't speak any other foreign language for that part, but trying to get that individual to understand what I was trying to order, and it took 3 tries before my order was ever correct. So you're going to see a lot of change going forward, and it's not just in hospitality, and it's just going to be change in the way productivity takes place, whether remotely, whether back in the office, and things are going to be changing moving forward. But as students of macroeconomics, we hope, or at least I hope, through this class, we're going to be able to give you some tools for your toolbox to help you navigate the changes you're going to see going forward in the production environment. This is the first part. Again, it's introduction to chapter 2, and I will talk to you again, and we'll kind of get into and discuss in a little more detail the factors of production. Talk to you later. Thanks.